the mock draft injection. Do a mock draft to get you guys ready. What are the experts thinking the Texans are going to do? This Pro Football Network 7-rounder sucked me in this weekend. Yeah, I'm guessing by like the 5th round, they're just letting AI draft the rest of it on these 7-round mocks. That's a lot of, or just going, whatever. Here's this guy to that team, this guy to that team. If you're someone who does a 7-round mock and you're actually sitting and thinking about each pick, God bless you.
I think, well, a lot of it when it comes down to team needs, it's that's how you can let it guide you, you know, and then various bias you have from watching actual guys. That's one thing I've noticed. And scouts will tell you about this. You know, Casario's talked to us about this. You got to be really careful that you're not overly biased towards the guys you've seen in person, or that whatever. It's hard because you feel more comfortable with those guys that you've actually seen in the flesh and spent more time with.
Yep. All right, mock draft injection time. Let's do it. This is the Pro Football Network 7-round mockaroo. So let's hit it here. With the 25th pick in the Pro Football Network 7-round mock draft, the Houston Texans select Tyler Booker. Tyler Booker, interior offensive lineman, Alabama. Circle of life. This is the guy who was going to the Texans in every mock draft when we started this process. Kind of flew off the radar for a little bit. At one point flew off the radar because he was getting drafted really early. Then he had not a great combine, and he started to drift into the 30s. He's fluctuated quite a bit, as have a lot of the guys outside of the top 10. You know,
I do. I think it really feels like it's going to be wide open this year. I think a lot of guys that are going in mocks in the late 2nd round are going to go
move up.
Maybe in the back half of the 1st round.
Yeah.
It just and part of it's probably because there's just so many underclassmen coming out these days, guys without a whole lot of experience, that guys aren't as polished as they used to be. So I'd be cool with this pick. There's a lot of things to get excited about with Tyler Booker. As much as I've said in the past that, hey, I try not to worry about the athleticism and testing as much when it comes to guards, there's a part of me that just now knowing that Tyler Booker tested as poorly as he did and then watching him more and more, it's hard lack of overall athleticism. Yeah. He's this big, strong guy, and he takes the right angles and he does all the things that you need to do to get away with not being as good an athlete. But it's hard sometimes when you see guys beat him with speed off the snap and at times struggle with the athletic parts of the game. It makes me a little bit nervous. Having said that, I don't feel awesome about any of these guards. So it's not like I would be upset that they chose Tyler Booker over
Gray Zabal
or Donovan Jackson or anything. It's just I don't feel like any of those guys are slam dunk. I feel awesome about them with the 25th pick overall. Whereas guys like Josh Connerly, an offensive tackle, I feel like those guys actually look a lot more like first-round picks. I think the thing with Tyler Booker that might really put him over the top with the Texans is that people talk about him the same way they talked about Will Anderson at Alabama, that his leadership skills and his personality traits are just top-notch.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's hear Daniel Jeremiah, who invokes that exact name here, saying Tyler Booker, no-brainer for the Texans.
You look your quarterback in the eye and not go offensive line with his first pick. And that's why, to me, I just wrote down Tyler Booker coming out of Alabama. Think about DeMeco Ryans and his pipeline and information in Alabama. And when they tell me that he was the caliber of leader and the caliber of work ethic in bringing others along as a guy that the Houston Texans have playing defensive end for him and that type of guy, and I think it's worked out pretty well for him there.
All right, so that was Daniel Jeremiah.
Yeah. You know what's interesting, though, too, and this is where I listen to Daniel Jeremiah closely. Daniel Jeremiah, before the Texans drafted C.J. Stroud a couple years ago, he said multiple times, look, I know a lot of people are saying that the Texans aren't going to draft a quarterback, but I cannot imagine them not drafting a quarterback. It didn't make any sense to him. And ultimately, in his final mock draft, he said C.J. Stroud, and then he predicted a trade up for Will Anderson, which is kind of freakish, and it also makes you feel like, hey, Daniel Jeremiah is a guy that talks to a lot of front offices and gets a feel for them. Him saying that it's hard for him to, imagine the Texans looking C.J. Stroud in the eyes
That
and
resonates,
not drafting an
doesn't it?
offensive
Yeah.
lineman. Yeah, it resonates.
Yep. Let's hit these other picks real quick. With the 58th overall pick in the Pro Football Network 7-round mock draft, the Houston Texans select T.J. Sanders, defensive tackle, South Carolina. So they go interior O-line first round, interior D-line second round, and they say this: given their struggles up front on the offensive side of the ball, it wouldn't be surprising if the Texans doubled down on offensive linemen early in the draft, though he's played quite a bit. So they're not drafting an O-lineman here, but they're acknowledging that could happen. They go on to say about Sanders specifically, though, defensive tackle, he's played quite a bit as a 3 technique or as far out as a 5 technique. I like Sanders best as an athletic 1 technique who can generate pressure up the A gap, the ball, and his raw power at the point of attack.
And raw power at the point of attack, I think, is a big one. He doesn't flash as much as a guy that gets across the line of scrimmage really fast, but he is very athletic, and he uses his hands really, really well. You watch him, and you think, okay, there's a lot of dog in this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like he plays a physical brand of football, and he only weighs 295, 297 pounds or so. But I could totally see him being a D'Amico Ryans type of guy.
You like that pick?
Yeah.
With the 79th overall pick, the Houston Texans select Kyle Williams, wide receiver, Washington State. Seen a lot of Texan fans kind of in on Kyle Williams with one of these third-round picks. Fluid, long-strided wide receiver who's quick out of breaks with good spatial awareness, giving him potential starting upside. Kyle Williams actually did an interview at the Senior Bowl and talked about who he patterned his game after.
About the release for you, or is it more about the speed after the release?
For me, it's a release. I like separation. It's like COVID. Like, get away from me 6 feet. As much distance as I could create.
It's like COVID. I love it. What do you enjoy running against more, man or zone?
Man.
Okay.
That's my bread and butter.
There you go. Name a wide receiver or 2 in the NFL who you model your game after.
Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell.
Why?
Dudes are not the biggest, but they definitely get open against all different types of corners, tall, long, short, and fast. So it's just like they're really creative in space, and that's what I like to model my game after.
Get open, move the chains, catch the ball. That's D'Amico's talked about what he and Nick, their recipe for the wide receiver position is guys that can get open. Guys that can move.
Kyle Williams, I wonder if he's available then, just because he seems like one of those guys that maybe there's a buzz about him, and as some of those people like Daniel Jeremiah start talking and getting a feel for what NFL teams really feel like, that I think that they might be a lot higher on Kyle Williams than perhaps he was early in the mock draft.
Yeah, we'll see. Last couple we'll get to here. 89th overall pick. Emory Jones, offensive tackle out of LSU. So they get an interior O-lineman in the first round. They get a tackle in the third round, both out of the SEC. The only other pick that I cited here that I just thought was interesting in the 5th round with the 166th pick, they do take a running back, Trevor Etienne, the brother of Travis Etienne, the former first-round pick of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who played for Georgia Life. Started out his career in Florida and finished up at Georgia. So
what are the picks, and when you see various mock drafts and you see Texans fans' reactions to them, what are the ones that anger them the most when it comes to guys in the first round? It feels to me like defensive tackle angers a lot of Texans fans. Or anybody non-offense, people get PO'd about that.
Yeah, defensive tackle. I don't see anybody get angry about offensive line. I see people get nervous about the Josh Simmons knee injury when they draft Josh Simmons, and so many of them. Like, he's been drafted by so many of the mock draft guys. I see a lot of nervousness about that.
That's nervousness. I still see people getting angry. First and foremost, if the Texans draft any defensive player, people get PO'd. But then there are a lot of people that if it's any get PO'd about that. We talked about at the beginning of this segment how it just seems like the kind of year where it's just anybody's guess from pick 10 down through 60 exactly who the first and second rounders are. That I feel like it's a classic year for Nick Caserio to trade back.
Well, yeah, and he may try to. We'll see.
Yeah.
He'll listen to everything. We know that.
Yeah.
To answer your question, there have been a couple mock drafts that you and I have done or that I've seen where they've drafted defensive end, which makes no sense to me. That's going to be somebody who's getting on the field for 15% of the snaps their rookie year. In the first round, they want to draft one in the third round, knock yourself out. And the other one I would say is there have been a couple Remember, there's a couple drafts that had them moving up to take that Walter Nolan, who's a linebacker, who people, and I think a lot of that is your assessment of that. Yeah. Oh no, what? No, who am I thinking of? It's not Walter Nolan, because Nolan's a kid from Ole Miss. It's one of the linebackers. I'll find it. There's a linebacker that somebody had them moving up, that a few people had them moving up for, that just didn't make sense.
It was an off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It wasn't Walter Nolan. It was somebody else.
Yeah, but I like Walter Nolan. I've got some reservations about him, but he's a guy that plays. He kind of plays a lot like Will Anderson in that there's times where his motor is going all the time, but he needs to refine his technique some. So that's appealing to me, but I just don't want a defensive player in the first round.
Jalen Walker, the linebacker from Georgia. I got it mixed up with Walter Nolan. Jalen Walker, the linebacker from Georgia, is the one I'm thinking of.